Are you a oh? Are you a struggling podcaster who's trying to stand out but have no idea what you're doing and or if you're doing it right? In this video, we're going to talk about how to make your podcast stand out, and not only stand out but compete with every other podcast that there is. So welcome to the Phase Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Terrell Humphrey, and over the last half a decade, I've produced over 893 podcast episodes while helping 23 entrepreneurs launch their podcasts with confidence. And the biggest thing that I've learned is how have learned and is currently learning is how to stand out from the crowded market. So make sure you got your pen, get your notebook, because today gonna be a great episode. So point number one, a lot of people talk about consistency. When I started podcasting half a decade ago, they say you have to be consistent. I'm like, what does that even mean? What does that consist of? Why is that important? And so when I start to understand that consistency is the number one point, I'm going to talk about how to be consistent, what strategies you need, and how to implement it for point number one. So point number one is consistency. ENCY. Consistency is the most important thing there ever is. And I'll tell you this, it's important because if you're not consistent, people are not going to follow you. People are not going to support you. People are not going to learn more about your podcast. Your podcast has a mission. Your podcast has a plan. Your podcast has a business model attached to it. And when you understand that you're pursuing a mission, a goal, a purpose, you have to do it every day. You have to do it consistently. I wouldn't say you have to do it every day, but you have to double down on it. Why this is important? Because there's over 4.5 million plus podcasts out there. So which means that there are people launching their podcasts every single day. And when I start to recognize, I'm like, okay, cool. I have a lane that I want to be in, but this lane that I want to be in, how can I stand out from the rest? And I started to recognize, I'm like, oh, okay. First thing first, I got to learn more about business. I got to learn the language of business, the business of podcasting, the business of what I'm doing. I have to learn the business structure of it. So now when I learn the business of it, I'm like, okay, what problem am I solving? Who are my customers? How can I go about helping them? My ideal customers are multifamily investors who want to launch their podcast with confidence, but they hesitate to start. Why are these people my ideal customers? Because when I started this journey a half a decade ago, starting real estate wholesaling, and I was like, man, I always wanted to get into like multifamily investing. There's an easier path to get into the industry that you want to get in. So why not go to the customers? Why not help them with their podcast? In other words, not just with their podcast, but to market themselves. It's not just about recording content. It's literally about marketing your business, marketing yourself, building a following, building trust. When you do this, it all comes from being consistent. Consistency creates results over time. It doesn't create results as soon as you start. It creates results the more you do something. See, when 2 years ago, when I started to like get back in the groove of working out, I started small. Like, it was hard for me to get back in the groove of getting back in shape. So what I did was this, is that I ran 2 to 3 times per week. And what this encouraged me to do was to push myself. It was to strive for greatness, was to understand that I can literally do something when I put my mind to it, but it's putting my mind to it that will help me accomplish the goal that I'm looking to achieve. So what I recognized during that time is that, one, I have to do it consistently. What does consistency look like? In podcasting, consistency looks like having conversations every day or having conversations often. Consistency looks like uploading the conversation. Consistency looks like promoting the conversation. Consistency look like not stopping the conversation. Consistency look like you doing it on a consistent basis. In other words, you doing it on a daily basis. In business, when you get up and do your business every single day, you have to do it daily. See, daily creates faster results. It creates faster results because you are the one that's doing the work every single day. You see, in order to get 893 podcast episodes, I had to get up and do the work every single day. What does this do for me? It helped me position myself differently. It helped me be different. It helped me stand out from all the 4.5 million plus podcasts out there. And when I started to recognize that I was standing out with the business, I was like, oh, this is different. It's different because people, aspiring podcasters, let's say, let's call it how it is, aspiring podcasters who launched their podcast, aspiring podcasters, stop after episode 3. Episode number 3. So you're telling me that if I get past episode number 3, I can be different. You're telling me if I get past episode number 4, I'm literally I'm different. What I say earlier, I'm standing out. But in order to stand out, you just can't go from 3 to 4. You gotta be consistent. A shout out to Les Brown. I was watching a video when I was stationed in the Marine Corps back in California, and I remember driving to work. I was watching the video, listening to it, and as I was listening to it, he said this one famous quote. He said, "You got to be hungry." He said, "You got to be hungry to understand that you are accomplishing something. You got to be hungry to show up. You got to be hungry to do the work." Hold on. You see, it's not just about doing the work that makes a difference. It's doing the work with a plan that will help you stand out. Not only just stand out, but help you really have a business around your podcast. You see, you got to be hungry. But before you get hungry, you got to have a plan to execute. That plan ain't gonna come to you if you're not working your plan. That plan ain't gonna come to you if you're not doing what you need to do. You see, podcasting is more than just creating content. You're literally marketing yourself. You see, I got different flyers over here. I got different ways to put myself out there. Then when I recognize when people start to come into my world, I'm like, what do I do next? It's not the fact that I didn't understand podcasting. Now I have to learn how to operate a business. Now when you operate a business, when you operate a business, you got to operate this business on a daily basis. You see, if I was to go to the dentist, which I've been to the dentist a couple of times, if I was to go to the dentist and schedule an appointment, and the day that I go there to schedule an appointment, they're closed. Like it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon and they're closed. And I'm like, man, I'm just trying to schedule an appointment. You see, it's not just the fact that you got to do business to schedule the appointment. You got to do business because you got to show up and meet your customers when they are ready to come to you. You see, they ain't going to come to you if you're not present. They ain't going to come to you if you're not consistent. They ain't going to come to you if you're not standing out. When you operate a business, you operate this daily. Daily is the key, because if you stop operating your business, you will not be in business. And that's when I start to understand. I was like, ooh, there's something here. There's something here, because eventually people will start to learn more about me. Eventually people start to be connected with me. Eventually people will start to say, ain't you the podcast guy? But before that even happens, I gotta be okay with doing the work in silence. You see, the work is silent, but the work is consistent. I'm gonna say that again because that was a good one. The work is silent, yet the work is consistent. When the work is consistent, it don't matter how quiet it is. It just matters that I'm consistently showing up. And I recognized yesterday, I was like, hold on, I got this new goal, right? Well, I'm gonna post 8 to 24 times per day. And I'm not just going to post random videos, topic quotes. No. I'm going to post 8 to 24 times a day. Why? Because I want to be in front of my customers when they are ready to say, I want to launch my podcast with confidence. I want to stand out so that way they know who to come to when it's time to say, I finally want to launch my podcast. I've been seeing you online talking about podcasts, and now I want to launch my podcast with confidence. You see, it's not just about the posting, right? This right here is called marketing. This right here is called marketing. So if I market my business effectively, I can get customers on a consistent basis. It might not happen today. It might not happen tomorrow. It might not happen today after. But I'll tell you this, when it does happen, the business is already operating as a system. You see, when I start to show up daily, I start to operate the podcast as a business. And now it's like, okay, I'm not winging the impact no more. I'm systematically operating this podcast like a business, and now that I'm doing that, I can stand out. I'm standing out because it's no longer just me winging it. It's no longer just me having fun. It's no longer just a hobby. It's a business. Hold on. It's a business because let's just take content creation out. You have to market your business effectively so people can learn more about you. My wife and I was watching this TV show, and we was watching the show, and let's just say it went on a commercial break. The commercial break that it went on, it was an ad, let's say, to Target. Target promoted their service or their company so people can learn more about Target and go there. So what this did for me is that you got this show, let's say show. You got this show, right? But the show is nothing if you don't know how to generate revenue from it. So what I started to do was like, okay, who's my customers? First thing first, I started to learn business. Okay. I started to learn business. I started to understand business. I started to understand how to sell, how to market, how to follow up, how to have a system, how to be consistent, how to structure my podcast like a business, then operate it as such. So when I started to do that, I started to see a shift. The shift that I noticed was this. It's no longer a hobby. It's a business. It's a business. So when I started learning about sales, I was horrible in sales. Like, I was not good in sales. Like, man, shout out to my mentors back in Cali, Mike and Briglio, Steve Anderson. They was like really patient with me. I was not good at selling. I was not good at understanding the problem. I was not good at like communicating with homeowners. And I was like, man, why is it so hard? And what I recognized during that time is that I didn't understand what problem that they had. Every business has a problem to solve, but until you recognize that problem, you're not in business. And so when I start to recognize, I'm like, oh, okay, it's all about asking questions. It's all about communicating with people. It's all about understanding what challenges that you're facing. Now, I wasn't able to close a lot of real estate transactions because I only closed one like by myself when I was, not by myself, but when I was working with my buddy back in Arkansas. Shout out to Dylan. And when I closed that, it was like, man, how did I close that? How did we close that? I was like, man, I don't even know. But then I got to thinking about it. We only had a limited amount of people to call. Meaning that I wasn't following up, meaning that I didn't have a lot of contacts to reach out to, meaning I was not operating it as a business. I was trying to figure it out. So it's kind of like a hobby. Like I'm learning how to play the piano. I'm learning the keys, learning the sounds. I'm learning that as a hobby right now. But if I wanted to get paid for playing the piano, I would have to learn the business of the piano. But I'll tell you this, when you learn how to sell, when you learn how to market, when you learn how to operate your business, operate your hobby as a business, any type of business that you're doing has to operate as a system. If I was to go down the street, go to McDonald's and get a burger and fries, there is a system behind it that's building this burger and fries. It's more so of understanding that if you're going to stand out, operate your podcast like a business. Because your podcast is what's going to generate awareness. I did a podcast the other day and I said awareness creates business. And it can only create business if you're consistent. If you're consistent, you can literally beat your competitors because a lot of people quit after episode number 3. About a lot of people, I'm saying 90% of aspiring podcasters stop after episode number 3. Why? Because it's a lot of work. Why? Because it's overwhelming. Why? Because you don't know what you're doing. You see, understanding that you have a problem to solve, you have to solve it with your podcast. With failure is knowledge, the problem that we're solving is turning setbacks into success. I'm speaking about what we're doing in real time, and I'm coming out here and educating you all to say, this is what I've tried, this was working for me, this is how you can start implementing for yourself. Why? When people come on, a lot of people talk about the success. I've accomplished X, Y, and Z. I've done this. I did this for X amount of years. But what about when you was figuring out what you did? Well, what about when you was understanding that you accomplished something, but that something that you accomplished wasn't what you thought it was going to be? What about that journey? What about that vulnerability? What about that failure? I want to learn about that first. And then we're going to get to your success. Why? Because I want to be different from every other 4.5 million plus podcasts out there. But now I'm thinking like a business. I'm thinking like a business owner who has a problem to solve for an ideal customer. And I'll tell you this, it's a game changer because of the awareness. It's a game changer because of the consistency. It's a game changer because now I'm the one that's solving this problem on a daily basis. So when you're ready, I'm here to serve you. So next point that we're going to talk about is this. And I talk a lot about this, but this is so critical. This is so critical. Okay. Know what? No, I'm just going to keep it simple. Include a call to action. Hold on. All right, there we go. Include a call to action. What does this mean? So, in order for you to have a business, you have to have some place for people to go. Let's say step one equals awareness. Okay, step 2 is taking action. And what this means is this. Let's just say you're watching this video and you've been watching for 16 minutes and 52 seconds. And the call to action I'm about to do now is to say, hey, if you actually got value so far, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Simple. But really, go actually hit the follow and subscribe button. That call to action causes people to do stuff, to do something. You don't want people to do everything. You don't want people to do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 things. I learned this from watching Mr. Beast, learned from watching other podcasts, reading different books. If you have one call to action, you have a way to communicate with your customers. If it's going to be join your email list, if it's going to be follow, subscribe, it's going to be something. Make sure you have one. So you don't have a lot of different things in your call to action, because now it's just confusing. Now you're saying subscribe, RIBE. Now you're saying join newsletter. Now you're saying buy product. Now you saying buy service, and so on. Okay, why is that important? That's important because of this. Because if you have one call to action for your business, for your podcast, people can literally take the next step. What I've learned in business while being in business, I want people to take the next step. I don't want you to take multiple different steps and then get overwhelmed and not do anything. The next step will help you lead to the step after that. But before you get to the third step, you got to get to the second step. So for point A to point B rather than point A to point C, because if you skip steps, you're going to be overwhelmed. So then when I start to recognize that there's something here, there's something became more of a business. Okay. When you include a call to action, you're encouraging people to take that next step with you. When people take that next step with you, they are invested in you. They got the value from you. They want to learn more. A lot of times my next step is, hey, if you got value from this, leave a testimonial. A lot of times my call to action when I'm doing online training or doing like intentional webinars, I say, hey, now do you mind if I open up the or do you mind if I talk about what we offer and how we go about helping aspiring podcasters like you? They said yes. I get to the sales pitch, sales presentation. So now it's more so of okay, everything that you do. I'm saying everything that you do, everything that you do has to, there we go, has to have a call to action. You have to have a call to action because you have to be the one that encourage your audience, customers, leads to take that next step. When I started running Facebook ads, it's literally, there's a post here, go here, sign up for the webinar. I want you to take action because if you're taking action, you're invested in what I'm saying. If you're taking action, you're investing in what I'm saying. In order to have a business, you have to have a call to action so you can operate as a business. You're going to sell a product, you're going to sell a service. You have to have a call to action because when you have a call to action, you can literally encourage your customers, your audience, and the people who's following you to take action with you. Action only comes from you stating what step you want them to accomplish. So to stand out from the 4.5 million podcasters, you have to have a way to stand up to other people. And when you're doing this, you're encouraging people to say that I'm going to support you along your journey. Your journey is what makes a difference, but your journey is what encourages you to keep going. You got to keep going. You got to keep figuring it out. You got to keep putting yourself out there. Excuse me. When you put yourself out there on a daily basis, things start to happen. I start to recognize that when I show up daily, things start to happen because now I'm seeing and creating opportunities for myself. I'm not just winging it, I'm creating opportunities. So now the opportunities that's being developed only comes from the consistency. So it only comes from the consistency because I'm literally saying like, this is what I'm doing, this is who I help, this is how I go about doing it. In fact, if you want to learn more, go here. Simple. That's a call to action. Book a discovery call. You are literally scheduling because you have interest to get on a podcast, learn about podcasts, and/or launch your own podcast with confidence. But if I don't put myself out there, how are people going to know? How are multifamily investors and entrepreneurs going to know that we help them with this particular issue? That we help them solve this problem? That we help them not only solve the problem, but be able to stand out from other people? Because a lot of people are not consistent online. Correction, a lot of people are not marketing themselves effectively online. So now that I have a competing advantage, I stand out because I'm learning that business is not just about a one-sided action. It's a relationship action. It's like you got to build upon each other. And then when you build upon each other, you got to understand that this is something that you're working towards. What's going on? Appreciate y'all for joining in. So when everything has to have a call to action. So recently I've been doing these articles from the podcast. I've been doing these articles, and like towards the end, I say, click below. Click below to watch the full episode. It's not too much. It's not too less. It's one. Everything that you do has to have a call to action because you're encouraging your audience to take the next step. As a podcaster, as a business owner, you have to have a call to action so people can actually start coming into your world, learn about what you do, and then eventually become customers. But before they do, you have to figure out how to show up on a consistent basis. Consistency is what makes a difference because you can start something today, stop it tomorrow. You can start something today, start it tomorrow, or do it tomorrow, stop the third day. It's all about starting today and never stopping what you have started. Because there's some things that you're going to learn that you can only learn when you're going through the process. So point number 3, or first 2 points that we talked about is that consistency. I talked about what consistency actually consists of. Point number 2 is that you have to include a call to action, encourage people to take that next step with you. And point number 3, this way what's helping me stand out even more. It's to be patient. It's to be patient. It's to be patient. I've learned while being in podcasting and being in business over the last half a decade is that results is not going to come as quickly as I thought they were going to come. They're going to come in due time, but the in due time only comes from me executing on a daily basis. So being patient is doing the work in silence. It's like I just watched this video. It was this kid who was training to be a boxer. And he had little cones down, and they was yellow, and he's doing drills. So he'll come here, he's practicing. And the coach right here is guiding him. Guiding. Guiding him. The coach is guiding him. In other words, the coach is giving him direction. Hey, now I said, what we're gonna do now? You're gonna lead with your left foot. Then when you lead with your left foot, make sure your hands is up. I'm just saying, like I haven't been boxing in a while. However, in the video, it talks about that he's practicing. He's showing that he's practicing. He's going from one cone to the next, and he's practicing. But then what this does is that the coach is able to see his weakness and say, hey, don't do it like this. Do it like this because you will have a better outcome. In business, when you have a coach, you're able to practice. Then they're able to say, okay, it didn't sound too good on your sales call. It didn't sound too good when you was creating content. Instead of doing it and communicate this way, try this way. Like you're able to understand more about your customers because you have a coach to understand, like, hey, you're weak in this area. Let me try to help you. Now, this is how you do it. This right here causes me to be patient. It causes me to be patient because there's not instant gratification. There's no instant results. I went to a networking event yesterday, and I went there, and I already knew some people that were there. So I went go speak to them, and if they was talking to somebody, they would introduce me to them, and I was like, dang, like, how do I introduce them to them if they already know them? So I was like, well, do you have a business card? That was my default because it's like, well, they don't even know, like, yeah, he just told me, but I have no idea what they do. So it's just like, well, instead of like rushing to get the card information and stop the conversation, what I should have done was that, hey, I appreciate that. Then give the same energy back, and then be like, so what do you do? So now, like, I literally thought about it. I was like, dang, like, that was the wrong way to do that. Did it twice. And I was like, you got a business card? And Like, I didn't even communicate with them in regards of, like, what do you do? And so on and so forth. So being patient is literally understanding your customers. Being patient is understanding your customers. Being patient is communicating with your customers. Being patient is recognize the problem that they are struggling with and understanding that you can solve this problem. Being patient is showing up on a daily basis and not having no instant gratification. Being patient is doing the work, and as you're doing the work, you're consistently showing up. And then eventually, when people start to come into your world, they start to say, man, this person has been consistent putting out content. In other words, this person has been consistently marketing themselves. And now that they are marketing themselves and people want to learn more about that, they know who to go to. Being patient creates results over time. And over time, those results come from you being consistent, showing up daily, operating your podcast as a business, and understanding that everybody who come encounter with you, watch your videos, understand more about what you're doing. They are learning about the value that you provide, So when it's time for you to say, hey, I have this problem, and they come into your world because you've been solving this problem for so long, they start to say, this person has helped me launch their podcast with confidence. Why? Because this person has been consistently patient. Like, they're literally patient. They're just doing the work. Then whatever outcomes comes because they are doing it every single day. That's the game changer. That's the shift dynamic. Because in business, you have to recognize that everything matters. In business, I recognize that everything matters because everything is building on top of each other. As it's building, there's a terminology called compound. I don't know the Google definition, but to keep it simple, compounding equals multiplication. It means, let's say 2 times 10 equals 20. Let's say 2 times 30 equals 60. Yeah, 2060. Why am I using that example? Because if you're consistent for 20 days, you might have an outcome in 60 days. That was good. That was real good. That was real good. Why? Because every day builds on top of each other. And it matters because it's multiplying your impact. It matters because it's multiplying your business. It's matter because it's multiplying the way you market yourself. You might not see results today, but if you continue to do it, you will eventually see results. And that's one thing I'm telling myself, like, just be patient, do the work, and continue to show up. In addition to that, have a call to action so you can actually start generating revenue. And I tell you this, it's understanding that patience creates results. Because patience has to be focused on a daily basis. In addition to the patience, is doing the work every single day. So just to recap everything that we talked about today in this phenomenal episode, point number 1 is that I explained what consistency actually is. Like, I explained that and how to go about doing it, and that was actually pretty good. Point number 2 that we talked about is that you have to include a call to action. Anytime you do a podcast, a conversation, network, whatever case is, have a call to action. Have a call to action. A call to action is encouraging the people taking the next step with you. And then when they take the next step with you, you're guiding them to take that step with you. And the last point that we talked about is to be patient. Every business has a cycle, but you have to understand the cycle that you're in and be patient while you're developing your business, your structure, your systems, and processes. So if you're a multifamily investor who struggle with marketing yourself effectively and want to launch your podcast with confidence, make sure you send us an email at Terrell@FailureIsKnowledge, and we look forward to helping you launch your podcast with confidence. Lastly, don't be afraid to fail, because failure is knowledge.